it working?
Oh yeah, so our strum is actually connected to Bluetooth, so.
Is it the strum keyboard?
It is. Yeah,
Wow.
we'll talk about the library later.
Nice.
Can you check now that it's working?
It's not.
Okay, we have a really good demo video, worst case scenario, but
This will work.
I think the live.
Trust. You just disconnected? No?
Yeah. Did I just disconnect?
Yeah, you could disconnect. You're disconnected. Yeah.
Oh.
It's gonna be fine.
Wait, it says connected.
Okay, good. Then try it.
Okay. Hopefully we don't have to do this more than once, but so we have 3 songs for selection for our Guitar Hero game. And so we'll demo one of them, and then we'll have 2 audience volunteers play the other 2, and you guys will play like rock paper scissors, and the loser will.
We'll decide what happens to the loser.
Yeah.
But, okay, first, okay, I'll start with time.
Yeah, so we can select the song with the.
You select the song using the fretboard keys.
Of course.
And then when you're ready, you click the big red button, and then the audio is working still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Use the whammy bar.
Yeah. A little bit bad. Alright, who wants to play?
All right, who wants to
Like,
volunteer?
2 volunteers.
Two volunteers?
Wait. That's it. You play Nirvana. Go for it.
Okay, so yeah.
So,
So this is the
So
strum.
before you start the song, just like try clicking the keyboards, and you'll see on the screen.
it should switch between songs, and if you click the green one, you'll see the green square light up.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, so you should click,
Yeah, one, and then.
and then click the red start button when you're ready.
Okay.
Bet.
So like.
Okay.
Oh my god.
Now you can see that it's harder than it looks, right? Nice.
And then you should hold the notes down to sustain them.
Ah.
Okay, now hit the red and blue at the same time, just strum.
Yeah. Awesome.
Oh yeah.
In the interest of time, we might not be able
No,
to
you're
do.
good. No, I don't wanna do it
let's,
anymore.
let's keep this set up, and then everybody can come play.
Okay, well,
Do you guys need to?
Bohemian Rhapsody was by far the hardest.
Do you guys even need
Okay,
to show
good.
any slides?
Oh yeah, we have some slides.
Yeah, let's see this
Why?
one here.
You have the slides ready?
Oh yeah, I can get my HDMI thing.
I
Oh, we
can
got
also
one
get
here.
my computer.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
This
Thank
it's
you for
difficult,
volunteering.
Yeah,
man.
it was hard, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a real instrument, it requires practice.
Oh, I'm sure.
So Electric Air Guitar Hero by the Gus Underlings. So we'll just start with strumming. Why don't you talk about that one?
Yeah, so for strumming, the keyboard library that we use on the Cedrino doesn't work on the BLE, so we got lucky and we were searching GitHub and we found this guy who made a library that's HID and BLE all in one, and so yeah, we got that, and that was pretty easy.
And then something I wanted to mention, like, we had it plugged into the computer mainly for a power supply, but we
Okay.
were using Bluetooth to send the signals. So if we had like a tiny battery, then the pick could just like, you just unplug it and then hold it like this. So for the power supply, we had to plug it in. Okay, next we have the fretboard. So at first we were tinkering around with a bunch of ideas because the objective was to have it press a button, turn on an LED, and send the signal to the computer, which was a lot less trivial than it sounded because we wanted to use only one digital input. We didn't want to use two because we didn't want to waste them on the microcontroller. So I here have some transistors. We experimented with that. We experimented with op amps, but in the end, we were able to get this pretty simple design where basically when you press a button, it closes a circuit and turns on the LED, and also otherwise the voltage is high in the input. And so here's some of the code to work with the buttons and the LEDs. And so once we had the design for one single circuit, we basically color coded it and applied it to 4 in parallel. And once we had it on the breadboard, we started thinking of ways on how we would want to put it in the proto board, and then how the proto board would fit in with any sort of wearable. So the next step was to solder it once we had a good plan. So here's what it looks like soldering. We used a bunch of these like wire bridges, which were pretty cool. And then our idea was to have 6 wires in the output. So we'd have ground, power, and then the 4 digital inputs. And so then the next thing we did is we made our wearable. So this is the first design with the 3D print.
Okay, so
Or it's the next
I
slide.
just want to shout out Alan because he helped us print the second one using there it is. Using the Superior I guess.
Yeah,
analog.
Alan was, thank you so much. He was very kind. So this model, it was just like a hole and it didn't really fit at all. So we made a new updated one with ridges in place to hold the proto board. And Alan, thank you, he was able to print it at some like special lab or something. It was really clutch. But even though it was like a 10 out of 10 print, you can see how it is sitting in perfectly. And it was 10 out of 10, but it was kind of fragile, so we just blasted the whole thing with glue just to be safe. And so yeah, next we can talk about capacitive touch. Very wise quote by Yuda here, who helped us with this. So basically the idea of the capacitive touchless is that we wanted an analog input so that you could bend the pitches, like similar to a guitar where you bend the note by increasing the tension, or the reverse would be if you have a whammy bar, you decrease the tension. So we have functionality for like a positive bend or a negative bend, but either way the input is through this capacitive touch sensor. And you don't even have to touch it. So I have this little video here to demonstrate how like it's contactless. So you can see the serial monitor going up even without actually touching the plate. Of course, if you do touch the plate, it moves a lot faster. So that's why I was like whacking it at times during the demo. Big red button, not much to say here. We like spent a lot of time with we spent a lot of time with the digital pins and like optimizing it to use 1 instead of 2. So we felt obligated to use more of them because we realized it was kind of unnecessary. Okay, and then Sam can talk about the user interface.
Okay, so designing the user interface, we made a first draft with Python. Honestly, it's probably not worth showing that video. So we kind of anticipated that some other teams might use Flutter. So we decided in our own best interest we would go with native development. So we used Swift and Xcode, and the way we kind of, it was like my first time using it, so the way I learned it is just by making small projects with isolated functionality. And just some quirks about Apple is like, they really try to handhold their developers, so they have like this sandbox mode, and it prevents you from contacting like USB serial, and so you have to like find it in the settings and disable it so that you can actually communicate with the external world. And some stuff that we didn't configure that we considered were the loudness of the instrument, and then also what kind of guitar this is. I think the sound we're using right now is a funk guitar, but we experimented with like acoustic and other stuff. And if we had more time, we could have like let you also switch between instruments.
That was the original idea of the button, was to like toggle between sound effects, but we ran out of time.
And so how did we make the songs? It's literally hard-coded. So these values are, this is like what notes you're supposed to press as they're falling down. This is like the intervals between notes. And these are like the notes that are converted to MIDI pitches. And then finally, this is the bend value. So every note has like a semitone value that you can bend upwards or downwards, and that's controlled by the capacitive touch. And just like the difficulty of the game, so at first our design was that you had to press all the notes exactly. So if 1 and 3 were pressed, you had to have 1 and 3 and then strum, and then it would play. But that was a little too hard. So as long as you had a set of notes that contain 1 and 3, then it would play the note. Okay.
Alright, before anybody wants to try, is that sure that we're done? I'm looking, no team is left behind. Awesome, so that was it for